Hey, in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 sales mistakes that's costing your company millions of pounds. If you have a sales team and you want them to improve, you want them to increase sales conversions, you want them to increase their level of influence and impact on the potential clients and customers that you serve, then this video is for you. Also, if you are selling independently and you're a coach, consultant, agency owner, or a business owner that wants to sell more on your own terms from your own voice, then this video is also for you. I'm going to share with you 3 very powerful and compelling things that you're missing or your sales team is missing in sales conversations or doing imperfectly that's actually leaving you millions of pounds on the table if you have a large team, and if you are just working independently or if you just have 1 or 2 salespeople, it's definitely costing you tens of thousands of pounds. I'm going to show you how to pick that money back up so that you can start growing your income and your impact. But before I do that, let me give you a little bit of context. So I started my first coaching consultancy company 21 years ago, scaled it from just £30 when I started out to creating a company that was generating £3 million recurring revenue every year before selling it and retiring age 34. And since selling that business, lots of coaches, consultants, and agency owners are asking me how I did it, how I grew the sales, how I grew the company, etc. So I'm here sharing this journey with you, and let me share some very valuable insights that can add hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds to your business. Once you start to use these 3 patterns correctly, it can add millions of pounds, if not tens of thousands of pounds to your business. And the first one is really important. It's really simple, but actually by getting rid of it, it's going to increase your potential customer inspiration, and it's going to increase their confidence to move forward with you and to move forward with your company. Now, this is not something that people are going to say to you, like, hey, like, you've made this mistake, that's why I didn't buy from you. No, they actually don't know. Logically, they don't know. They don't think about it because it's not in the conscious mind, it's in the subconscious mind. And if you ever listen to somebody like Bob Proctor, then you would know that the mind is massive, right? But let's say the subconscious mind is where all of the thoughts, feelings, and the main patterns occur, and the conscious mind is really tiny, right? So the things that are happening below the surface, beyond, like, below your level of thinking, then those are the things that actually drive decisions most of the time. So you've got to understand the subconscious, and this is why linguistic patterns. Yes, my spelling is bad today. You know what I mean, right? Linguistic patterns are really important. What do I mean? I mean fillers. Like, if I keep saying things like, well, what I'm going to share with you next is going to be really, I think that we can help you, like, all of those fillers are killing your sales. It's killing your client confidence in you. And you don't know it, they don't know it, nobody knows it, but they just go, oh yeah, I tell you what, I'll think about it. Because it positions you somewhat on the same level and the same frequency as them. When you speak with clarity, you speak with confidence, you speak with certainty, like, they see you as an authority and they go, I like the way this person thinks. I want to get towards where they want to take me. You know, my mum passed away this time last year, and we was at the graveside yesterday with my stepdad, her husband, and my brothers and sisters. And one of the things that my stepdad said to me was very revealing. He said, I said, who was the other people that you spoke to in terms of the funeral directors, and what did they say? And my sister chimed in because she was taking care of the funeral service and getting that all organized. And she said, I spoke to 3 people. I said, well, what made you go with this company? Because they were really good. And what happened to the other 2? And she said, well, the other 2, they were very unprofessional. I said, what did you mean by unprofessional? Like, what happened? She said, well, I called them and they just seemed like shaky. They're just like, yeah, let me think about it. Yeah, I'll get back to you. Yeah, like all of that, the junk and mumbo jumbo, those kind of filler words, unintentional fillers, like those, they kill your sales conversions. Why? Because they kill the feeling. And when you sell with confidence, clarity, and conviction, you're actually speaking to a feeling. Humans don't buy based upon logic. They buy based upon emotion. So you've got to create a feeling in the heart that creates a focus in the head, which creates function in the hands. What do I mean by function in the hand? Something that they can do something with. And I said, when you spoke to the expert funeral directors that we actually dealt with, what made you go with them? He said, listen, he he spoke for 2 minutes. I said, stop talking. I said, what do you mean? He said, stop talking. my stepdad's a Rasta man, right? So you know when they talk, they're stern. He said, stop talking. He said, right, you got the business. Where's the account? Let me send the money straight away. No messing about. I said, what gave you that level of certainty? He said, they just knew what they were doing. They were just professional. And part of that professionalism came because they had good linguistic patterns. He just knew what to say and how to say it. And he didn't use unintentional fillers like like all of that stuff to kind of fill a conversation. He had a clear and defined set of things that he wanted to say, and he knew how to say them in a way which connected with my stepdad, which made him say, send me the account details, I'm sending the money now. And that's the level of confidence, that's the level of linguistic pattern that you want to start to develop. So the first thing that you want to do is go to your sales team, review your sales conversations, review either your sales conversations or the conversations of your team, and count the number of fillers that you used. Just count them. And then work towards reducing them. Now, I'm not saying that you never use fillers, because if you ever listen to a sales expert like Jeremy Miner, he will talk about, how you should use fillers intentionally. But the key thing is to only use them intentionally, and that's a more advanced training that we can share with you at some other stage. But linguistic patterns are very important. The second thing that I want to share with you, the mistake that you're making that's costing you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds, is that your team are probably selling based on logical information. As I shared earlier, humans do not buy on logic. No matter how much we try to rationalize this, no matter how we feel like we are logical people, we don't do things based upon what we think. What we think is always derived from the heart, which is what we feel. If you want to go to the bathroom, you feel like going to the bathroom before you think it. If you want to write a sales script, you feel like writing a sales script before you actually do it. So we have to speak to the logical, we have to not speak to the logical mind, but we have to speak to the emotional mind first, and then we have to back it up with logic. Let's slide over and see what we mean by logical content. So you might hear your team, or you might say things like, yeah, so we spoke yesterday and you said that you were going to speak to your husband. What were your thoughts about moving forward? And that might seem like something very natural to say, but it's a mistake that either you and or your sales team are making, because what you want to ask instead is, hey, we spoke yesterday and you were interested in XYZ solution. How did you feel about moving forward? Just by simply changing that word from thoughts to feel, you tap in more to the emotional state, which means that they're going to get more of their feelings out, which means that they're going to expand on what it is that they're feeling. They're going to share more. They're going to go deeper. They're not just going to give you a surface level answer like, yeah, we thought about it, and yeah, just kind of like not right now because, money, or not right now, it's not the right time. That's why you get so many of these objections, is because people are operating from a thinking state rather than a feeling state. Here's what I need you to understand psychologically. If you operate, you might think, oh, well, that makes sense. You should always operate from a logical state. But if you always operate from a logical state, guess what? You stay stuck. Because the logical state of where you are got you to where you are today, which is good, it's fair, it's moderate. Comparatively to where you were before, it's great. However, if you want to get to the next level, you want to create more advancement, you want to create more progress, you want to create more brilliance, then actually you have to get out of that logical thinking state, which is keeping you stable in the position that you are right now, but you've got to get unstable. You've got to get uncomfortable. You've got to go into a feeling state. You've got to create something new that you've not yet created. And in order to do so, you've got to feel the energy. You've got to make sure that you've got to come out of that logical state, because that logical state has got you so far and it will keep you stuck. How do I know this is true? Because the brain is designed to keep you safe. The brain is not designed to help you to become a millionaire. The brain is not designed to help you have a perfect solution. The brain is not designed to help you have a perfect outcome. You get the point. The brain is designed not to make you die. That's what it's designed for. It's designed to protect you. It's not designed to propel you forward. And that's why we have a human heart connection. And that's why we need to speak to the heart rather than the head. Here's another example. When can you get back to me? Or, when do you think you'll get back to me? Again, very, very casual conversation. People think that they're doing the right thing, but it's not. If you want to leverage, instead of saying, when can you get back to me? You have better language and say, how soon? How soon can we reconnect in order to further this discussion and elevate you to XYZ desire? Insert whatever their specific desire is. And the third one that you might hear quite a lot, does that make sense? Now, there is a time when you use that term, does that make sense? But it's not here. So instead of saying, does that make sense? Once you've rationalized and demonstrated your solution, instead of saying, hey, does that make sense? You can go, hey, how do you feel about that? If we can help you go from £3 million to £5 million over the next 12 months, how would you feel? Or when we demonstrate, watch this, assumptive close, right? When we, as opposed to if we. So when we help you go from 3 million to 5 million, like we've demonstrated and like we've done with John Smith and Anthony, how would that make you feel? Again, we are tapping into an emotional state rather than going, hey, well, we helped Anthony get from 3 million to 5 million in just 12 months. What are your thoughts about moving forward? Again, you're tapping back into that logical, which is ineffective and is not going to get you the leverage that you desire. Okay. So these are some of the word tracks that you want to think about in terms of moving from a logical frame of conversation to an emotional frame of conversation. You want to tap into emotional word tracks rather than logical ones. The third thing is critical. It runs through all of your sales conversations, every single one. And I can almost guarantee you that if you listen back to your sales calls, you are missing out on a level of listening. I don't know, you're going to be like, yeah, but Jazz, I always listen. No, you don't. Human beings don't listen. Human beings are not actually trained to listen. And when we listen sometimes, we are listening to reply rather than listening to understand. And that's a massive problem, especially with experienced salespeople. Here's why it's a massive mistake for experienced salespeople is because they've done it so many times. They've had this conversation, hundreds of times. And because they've had this conversation hundreds of times, they're kind of overriding in their mind and anticipating what the person is going to say rather than actually listening to what they say. And when you listen to what they say, you're not thinking about jumping to the next phase of your sales script. What you should actually be thinking about is, what does the person actually mean by this? And how is it that they're feeling? What emotions is this conjuring up that's actually limiting them from moving forward, or that's limiting them and that's keeping them stuck still safe where they are, and that's not giving them the leverage of where it is that they want to go? Because let me give you an example. So some time ago, when I was working with a client, his name is Ashley Blake, right? And what he wanted to do, he said he was charging £500 a day as a consultant. And what he thought that we were going to do together was increase his prices from like £500 to more like $750 a day or whatever it was. And that was the thought process that he had around leverage and increasing his offers. And when I started to listen to him, I started to gain a deeper understanding. I said, well, Ashley, what is it exactly that you're doing when you're going into these universities and helping them with their funding? And he said, well, basically, there's funding that they have untapped and they have to use it within a certain time period. But most universities either don't know that the funding is there and available, or they don't have the resources in order to access it, and or they use some of the resource but not all of it because they just don't have the skill set to be able to get the most funding that's potentially available to them. I said, well, what's the difference in kind of the levels of funding that could be available to them? And he said, well, talking about funding that's like £1 million plus, or £5 million in some cases, and sometimes it's just untapped and it just stays with the treasury or whoever it stays with, but it doesn't actually get then sent over to the university. I said, we're talking about a gap of like 5 million, right? He said, yeah. I said, oh, brilliant. Well, instead of you then becoming that consultant that charges 500, 750 a day, why don't you just charge based upon the leverage that you create? So I've never thought about that. But I was only able to come up with that solution. Why? Because I was listening. And then when he went into the next conversations that he had, he started to have conversations of what we call price juxtaposition. And through that price juxtaposition, what we mean is when he's saying something like, hey, so if we're able to help you get an additional 2 million in funding, would it be fair and appropriate to pay us 200K? And as a result of that and those types of conversations, he was able to gain contracts worth up to £287,000 just a few months after that conversation. So this is where I go back and I share with you that by missing out on your listening, by missing out on having logical conversations rather than emotional ones, and missing out on those linguistic patterns and those ums and those fillers, that's killing your sales conversions and killing your level of clarity and influence that you can have. So I hope you found that video useful. Go ahead and make sure that you subscribe, give this video a like so we can share this information with more consultants, more coaches, more agency owners, and more business owners just like you who want to have a bigger impact, a bigger income, and a bigger influence. My name is Jazz Rose. You're amazing, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.